Hello everyone. In this video, you're going to learn advanced properties, CSS properties on handling and customizing the color values. Particularly, we are going to learn how to bring in the transparency in background color. Okay, so there are different ways that you can bring in transparency for your background color. You can simply use opacity property. So that is the CSS property that will help you. Whatever color value that you're using, you can simply say the opacity property and you can say how much transparency you want to bring in to your background color. Then that transparency will be applied on the background color. The opacity can have the values from 0 to 1. So the 0 is completely transparent and 1 means completely opaque. Okay, so if you give 0.5, then you can see the 50% transparency. Okay, so it will can have the value between 0 to 1 with the decimal value. So that is opacity property, or you can simply say without using opacity property, by using the color value itself, you can bring in the transparency. For example, if you're using RGB color value, red, green, blue, the RGB value, then you can say RGBA. The R and G and B can have the values from 0 to 255, and A will have the value of transparency. That is whether you want to have 0% transparency, 100% transparency. If you want 100%, then you have to see 0. But if you don't want any transparency, then you have to say 1. If you give any values between 0 to 1, then that particular percentage of transparency will be applied. Okay. So if you are using RGBA color pattern, then if you want to bring transparency, then this is the syntax. RGBA or red channel value 0 to 255, green channel value, blue channel value, and A is for transparency. And if you're using HSLA color value, that means hue saturation, that pattern, then you have to use this value. Hue saturation pattern, already we have discussed about the HSL hue saturation lightness color model in chapter 3. So in addition to that HSL value, you can bring in the transparency by specifying the A value. Okay, so that is HSLA value. A is as usual 0 for transparent and 1 for opaque. Okay, so if you want to look at the HSLA color model, you can see hue 360 is for red. Okay, and saturation is 100 means full color value and 0 means gray value. In between that you will get some gray mixed color value. Lightness is how light you are. If you say 0%, it is black, and if you say give 100%, then it will be full white, and if you keep it in between, then it is the original color value. Okay, and then if you give the transparency to this, you will see how transparent it is. A value 0 means fully transparent, A means fully opaque, and then in between you will get the in between transparency. So that is with the HSLA color value. So next we are going to learn how to bring in the gradient. That means a smoothing, a blending effect from one color to another color. Okay, so how to change the color value, background color, to apply to a color value, but smoothly changing from one color value to next color value. So totally it will give you the look of having some image, right? So it will be helpful to give little bit more appealing look for the website, but without including any images, right? Including any multimedia images, you can bring in the appealing look to the web pages by using gradient. Okay, so changing from one color to another color smoothly, it's called background the gradient effect. Okay, so you can notice that this is the syntax to bring in the gradient. No doubt we are not using background color, we're using background image property, and inside the image we are actually, it's like creating an image from one color to another color. Okay, there are two values of that: linear gradient and radial gradient. Linear gradient, that will be a blending effect from top to bottom, and the radial gradient will be like a radial kind of effect from outer circle to inner circle. Okay, so let's look at the syntax in W3 School website. So you can see background image. So it is one property of background image. You can see this is one property of background image, and you can apply linear or radial gradient. So let's first explore the linear gradient. So you can see inside the background image property, you are giving the value linear gradient. That means linearly changing the value from one value to another value. So you're saying red, yellow, and blue. Okay. So the starts at the top. Always the linear gradient will start at the top and end at the bottom. Okay. Starts with the red color and it getting transition to the yellow color, and then finally it is ending in the blue color. Okay. So that will give some kind of image effect. So the syntax is very simple. You have to specify linear gradient, and inside that you have to give the color values that you want to display. You can even use hexadecimal values. Okay. So starting color, transition color, and between color, and then even you can just give two colors. If you just give two colors, then it will start from red and move towards blue. Okay. If you give another color, then orange. Let's say orange. You can see how it is getting moved from one color value to. Even you can apply it in radial fashion as a round circle background image. So that is for that you have to use radial gradient. Okay, instead of linear gradient, if you apply radial gradient, then you will get an image like this. Okay. Similarly, you can give any value. Starting this red one by default, the first value will be taken for the center, and the second value and third values like it. For example, if you say red and blue, then it will move from start from red center and move towards blue outer circle. Okay. Then you can give yellow in between with comma. You can see. Okay. So that is radial gradient. So without using an image, you can give some image effect, kind of little bit appealing effect to your web page. That can be done by using background image. You can see that this is a kind of background, but how you can do this kind of appealing background by using background image. Background is a gradient property. So background image is one of the value for background image, but either linear gradient or radial gradient. You can either apply the color values or hexadecimal values. Okay. Okay, so in this video we learned about how to bring in transparency to your image, and also how to bring in the gradient effect to your background. Okay, so in the next lecture, where we are going to apply all the concept that we learned in this chapter on the final project. See you in the next